Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodie, and I am your host. And on today's episode, we are going to talk about EV news, which is should not be a shocker to anybody. I do need to say that I have been working on a special episode that involves Fisker Motors. Unfortunately, because of some things that I got going at work and some family stuff and just all of, overall holiday stuff, that will not be coming out around Christmas. I would like to take a little bit more time and make it really, really good. I have big plans for this special, and maybe I should be a little bit more realistic, and I would get it done because I've been working on this since probably September, for sure September. Excuse me, for sure October, but I've been thinking about it for a long time. So yeah, just let everybody know we're just going to do news till the end of the year. So let's jump into it. Autonomous taxi company Waymo is expanding service, but they're not expanding service to a different part of the United States. They're expanding service to a completely different country. Waymo is headed to Tokyo in early 2025, and I don't know if this is in the cards or not, but I've always wanted to go to Japan. I've been to the Japanese airport several times on my way to Thailand. So yeah, is there a world where Kilowatt lands in Japan and takes an autonomous taxi ride and then goes back home? I don't know. But if you want to help support that, patreon.com/kilowatt or support kilowatt.com to make my dreams come true. It's not really my dream. It was just a cheap plug. Patreon.com/kilowatt. Anyway, Mich- Michigan's first federally funded NEVI EV fast charger is active and up and running. So if you don't know, the NEVI funds are the federal funds that you hear folks talking about on the political shows saying there's only been like 6 and they've spent $8 billion, which is not true. There's something like $8 billion available to states, and then the states put together a plan, and then from there, they roll out these NEVI-funded EV fast chargers. Well, Michigan's first NEVI-funded EV fast charger is a Rivian charger. It's located at 6200 South Pennsylvania Avenue in Lansing. If you're in that area, give it a look and let me know what you think. This is open to everyone. You don't have to own a Rivian to charge at this location. It's open to all EV owners. And Michigan should receive $110 million in NEVI funds through 2026 to roll out over 100 DC fast chargers. California utility SoCal Edison has just added 280 Chevy Silverado EVs to its service fleet. SoCal Edison is planning on transitioning their entire service fleet to EVs by 2030. So that's going to be a big help in terms of tailpipe emissions. And since we brought up the Chevy Silverado EV, let's talk about the 2025 Chevy Equinox. It's currently being recalled, not for a reason that you would think it would normally be recalled for. The car itself is fine, but the pedestrian alert system, that noise, that the sound that it makes when it's traveling at low speeds, isn't loud enough. And they say that it's not loud enough to alert pedestrians. So the recall involves 7,606 Chevy Equinox vehicles, and just the EV versions. The ICE versions obviously don't have this kind of feature. Here's the real bummer about this is you have to take it to the dealership to get fixed. There's no over-the-air update for this. So that's a bummer. Seems like there should be, but yeah, no over-the-air update, sadly. I apologize about my voice today. It feels like I'm more monotone than normal. So if that's bothering you, my apologies. Ford has received a $9.63 billion loan to build out their Blue Oval factory in Tennessee. And some of that money will actually go into 2 other plants in Kentucky. And from what I understand, those 2 Kentucky plants will help support the Blue Oval factory in Tennessee, which is their EV factory. I think they're calling it Blue Oval City. So that's pretty cool. Ford is also teaching or informing new EV drivers how to drive in the snow and manage your EV when it's cold outside, and more specifically, the battery. So here are some of their tips. park your car in the garage, if possible. Well, that's not possible for everyone, but it's a good tip. Remove all the snow from your vehicle before driving. This is just good advice, even if you don't own an EV. Although I will say, when I lived in Alaska and other colder climates where that snowed, I loved it when that big piece of snow would eventually fall off your car. It was very satisfying while you were driving around. Probably not the best, probably not the best way to do things, but yeah, remove all the snow from your vehicle before driving. This reduces weight and it reduces air resistance. One other tip is to plug your EV in when it's parked for extended periods of time. Obviously, this helps keep the battery charged, and depending on the battery management system, we can keep the battery warm. You can also set your daily departure time so that your EV battery is preconditioned and warmed up when you're ready to leave the house. And as an added bonus, the cabin is heated to whatever your desired temperature is. And they recommend using heated seats and steering wheel as much as possible over the HVAC system, because the HVAC system takes more energy. So by utilizing those heated surfaces, not only are you warming your body, you're warming the interior of the vehicle. Ford, a couple of years ago, actually did a study, and they they had heated dashes and armrests and the whole thing. And they found that it was much more efficient to do that than it was to blow hot, or, I guess in this case, hot air on you. So the heated surfaces is a better way to go. And then ensure that your tires are properly inflated. And that's just a good idea for everybody in general. All right, let's move on to a Kilowatt first, or at least I think it was a first. I don't think we've ever talked about Shaquille O'Neal on this podcast. I'm a fan of Shaq's. I've actually had friends that have had interactions with him, and they have more than one friend. They have nothing but good things to say about this guy. So Shaquille O'Neal, or Shaq, bought a Lucid Air. But as you can imagine, Shaq is 7'1" tall. Even though the Lucid Air is a really big car, it's probably not going to fit Shaq's unique needs when it comes to that kind of a vehicle. So he needed the car to be modified a little bit. So Shaq worked with West Coast Customs to customize his Lucid Air, and they transformed this car from a 4-door sedan to a 2-door coupe. And when I tell you that this car is gorgeous, that is not hyperbole. This is a really cool looking car, and Lucid needs to steal this design, not steal it. They need to license this design because it is absolutely gorgeous. Like, hands down, one of the best looking customs I've ever seen. Like, I think the Lucid Air just in general is a really nice, elegant looking car. This makes it elegant and sporty. Man, it's a nice vehicle. So, I mean, just chef's kiss to the job that West Coast Customs did on this car. I do wonder if this will improve Lucid's brand awareness, as Peter Rawlinson is always droning on about at the the conference calls, investor conference calls, because he's constantly saying Lucid just needs more brand awareness and they're going to sell more cars. I disagree. I think Lucid needs to, I don't know, release a car that doesn't start at $79,000, but in all reality, you're probably paying $100,000 to $120,000 for this vehicle if you get it the way you want it, if you can afford that kind of thing. So yeah, but I do think what Lucid does is really clever, and I think they have a good design sense. But this car takes that up several notches, not just one, several. This is a great looking vehicle. If anybody knows anyone from West Coast Customs or Shaquille O'Neal, and you want to give me a warm introduction, I would love to have either of those folks on the show. Moving on, the Zeker 7X electric SUV is now being sold in Europe. This is Zeker's third EV in Europe, in the European market. If you don't know, Zeker is a Geely company. I keep saying Geely, and I've been corrected several times, so I'm going to try to get it burned into my brain. Geely company. Anyway, if you're curious, the 7X is roughly the same size as a Honda Prologue. Here are some of the specs on this bad chicken. It's built on an 800-volt architecture. It has a 16-inch infotainment screen, And there's a custom or an option for like a 32-inch heads-up display. It looks like European buyers will have the choice between a 75 kilowatt hour battery, which would deliver about 480 kilometers or 298 miles, or a 100 kilowatt hour battery, which would get you 615 kilometers or 382 miles. It'll come in a single motor or dual motor configuration, depending on your needs. Deliveries start the second half of 2025, and it will start at $52,990. And I think I started this off by saying that it was already there. My correction. I guess I didn't read my own notes well enough. Delivery start second half of 2025. But I saw some of the Zeker vehicles in 2023 when I was at CES, and I was really hoping that I would see the Zeker again at the 2025 CES, and I'll let you know if I run across one of those. Our final story in our EV segment has to do with up-and-coming battery technology. Factorial, a battery manufacturer or wannabe battery manufacturer, at this point they're just doing research, but they just had a major milestone in the development of their solid-state EV battery technology. Factorial says that its new Solstice branded technology will boost energy density by 80%, and this is a 100% dry cathode, hence the solid state part of this. But Factorial said that their cathode process can eliminate, they didn't say that it would eliminate, it said that it can eliminate all hazardous solvents in the cathode coating process and simplify manufacturing, which results in lower cost, a 40% weight reduction in the battery pack. Factorial says that they can get up to 600 miles of driving range. That I am dubious about. I'm not sure that's real numbers right there. It's still pretty early on in the process. They are working with Mercedes-Benz, and they're confident that Factorial will be able to start producing solid-state batteries for Mercedes by 2030. So we got a little ways to go, at least 5 years. Factorial says that they have smaller prototypes which have reached over 2,000 cycles of charge during their life cycle tests, which is, pretty good. And the results are promising. I still think we're a little early in the process. Well, hold on just a second. I don't want to be negative here. So let's just say that what Factorial is saying now is promising, but there's a long road ahead of them to actually hit these numbers at scale for production purposes. There's a lot more that goes into that. So promising, but be skeptical. All right, that completes our EV segment. I already did my Patreon plug, but if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/kilowatt or supportkilowatt.com, and you'll get an ad-free experience for as little as $1. You can also support the show on Acast Plus if you're interested in that as well. And yeah, let's move into our Tesla news. Don't have a lot of Tesla stories here, so let's just dive in. Tesla's new lithium refining factory in Robstown, Texas, has officially started refining lithium. This is fantastic, especially when you consider that it was about a year and a half ago that they broke ground on this factory. And from May of 2023 to December of 2024, they broke ground, started building the factory, and now they are refining lithium. Seems like a super fast timeline. That's one of the things that Tesla actually does pretty good when it comes to building their factories and stuff is they get it done in a hurry. There's not a lot of waiting around. Once this factory gets up to volume and scale production, the site will produce around 50 gigawatt hours of battery grade lithium, which Tesla and I'm sure the US government are hoping to reduce the reliance on China, because that's a lot of these stories that we talk about lately. But yeah, congratulations to the team for getting that up and running so quickly. And I said we had 3 stories, but I'm actually going to remove one because Tesla's accusing a union in Germany of a coup on their workers' council, and we're just not going to talk about that today. I think there's nothing here now that I'm rereading this. So let's just move on to our final story. Tesla is rolling out the latest full self-driving version to all hardware 4 vehicles. But what about hardware 3? Well, we're going to talk about that. Let's start with hardware 4. So if you have a hardware 4 vehicle and you paid for Tesla FSD, you're going to get 13.2.1. And I should say that hardware 4, AI 4, those terms are used interchangeably here. So, but for this case, I'm just going to use hardware 4 because I keep messing up AI 4. Earlier this year at the 2024 shareholder meeting, Tesla had said that they expect that hardware 3 vehicles would get the update sometime by the end of the year. Well, the end of the year is a couple of days away at this point, and Ashok Elaswamy, who, if you don't know, is Tesla's autopilot program lead, said in a recent update that hardware 3 customers can expect FSD version 12.6 by the end of the year. If you're like me and can count, 12.6 is not a 13 version 13 upgrade. It's less than 13, is what I'm trying to say here. So when are we going to get version 13 for hardware 3 vehicles? And the answer to that is I'm not sure, but I feel really confident it's not going to be when Tesla says, because they keep missing deadlines. Yeah, it's becoming more and more clear, and even Tesla said this at their shareholder meeting, that it's unclear if hardware 3 vehicles will ever see true level 5 autonomy. They did mention that Tesla will provide, updated computer hardware if hardware 3 can't handle full level 5 autonomy. It's unclear whether or not Tesla's going to charge you for that. They may or they may not. I'm not really sure. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure that hardware 4 is capable of full level 5 autonomy, because Tesla is expected to release hardware 5 or AI 5 in 2025. So just to give you a little bit of perspective here, hardware 3 came out in 2019, hardware 4 came out in 2023. And then hardware 5 is going to come out in 2025. So that's 2 years. I'm not sure that's a good return on your investment. I mean, it might be, but it just seems really soon after hardware 4 to be releasing hardware 5. But what do I know? What are your thoughts? You can email me, Bodie, BODIE, at 918digital.com. And you can also text me or message me on X at 918digital. Let's see here. We got one little bit here about hardware 4 or AI 4. Some new Tesla owners are having some issues with their hardware 4 computers. According to Electrek, the issue is due to the computer short-circuiting, and that short circuit is possibly due to a combination of the low voltage battery and this happening during the camera calibration process. Tesla hasn't officially said anything about this. As a matter of fact, they're telling their techs, according to Electrek, to downplay the severity of the issue. But I trust Electrek as a source, although I do think they're maybe a little less, they're not quite pro Tesla, but they used to be. They're pretty critical of Tesla as of late, and I don't think their criticism's unfair. But when somebody's writing a bunch of negative stories or talking into a microphone a bunch of negative stories, you should always take their biases into consideration. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on this. Based on all of the time that I've spent talking about Tesla, this does not seem to surprise me that there's an issue and they're telling their employees, like, hey, let's downplay this and tell people that it's not as big of an issue as they think it is. And maybe it's not. I'm sure Tesla will fix it. I'm sure Tesla will make it right. But they probably don't want the negative press while they're trying to figure this out. But I would be willing to guess that this turns into a recall before this is all over. All right, everybody, that is it for me today. If you want to email me, again, it's Bodie, BODIE, at 918digital.com. I am on X at 918digital. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you on Friday.